are so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horse is kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. It'll get your ass moving some more burning daylight.
Howdy there, I'm Matt McKinley and we're burning daylight.
In the saddle till the job's done right.
Welcome to Burnin' Daylight, the only podcast for the working cowboy.
Well, howdy there, daylight burners. Happy Monday. How was your weekend? I hope it treated you all right. It's been hot here, hot and dry. It's almost like we live in a desert. Nah, I do live in a desert. But, yeah, so it's been doing desert things. Like being hot and not raining. But, I mean, that's kind of how it is everywhere. So, what are you going to do? Not much. Try to stay hydrated. Try to stay cool. And, yeah, laugh at people on the internet. That always helps me. And speaking of laughing on people on the internet, at people on the internet, you guys know I loves me some conspiracy theories. Love them. Can't get enough of them. I'll entertain all of them. I don't believe a ton of them, simply because they're crazy. But then again, like I said, I'll entertain all of them, just about. Because when you look at some of the conspiracy theories that aren't true, and they just sound kind of crazy, okay, there's that. But then you hear some things and you're like, no way, that's fucking real. That didn't happen. And you turn out, oh, the government did do that. Huh. Well, that's fucked up. If they did that, well, who's to say they wouldn't hide aliens from us, or Sasquatch, or, force a untested vaccine on population. There's all sorts of stuff that come into play when you find out that, they really did lie about the Gulf of Tonkin to get us into the Vietnam War. There's stuff like that, and then you're like, oh, they actually did fabricate a story and use it as an excuse to start spying on Donald Trump. So, I mean, they did spend 3 years of his presidency investigating him for essentially working with the Russians to steal the election from Hillary Clinton. That actually happened. Go research the Steele dossier, and so like that actually happened. So you're like, well, maybe this whole China Wuhan in a lab deal is maybe like the Wuhan lab created the COVID virus. You're like, I could buy it. Seems to be a lot of proof heading that way. Does it sound crazy? Yeah, real crazy. But could be real. But the one that has really got me, it's got I did not see it coming, I got to tell you. And maybe it's just because I kind of spend most of my time kind of making fun of the left wing people, and some conservatives too. I try to poke fun both ways, and the left wingers have just made it so damn easy that it's I mean, you go where the material is, and this one, I gotta say it, even though I didn't see it coming, it did not disappoint. So, you may have heard that Ivana Trump, Ivana, I'm not sure exactly. I'm going to say Ivana because her daughter Ivanka, spelled Ivanka, but pronounced Ivanka. So I'm guessing Ivana is her name. Former wife to President Donald J. Trump, former President Donald J. Trump, and mother to Eric, Don Jr., and Ivanka, has died over today's Saturday, and I believe it was yesterday, so Friday, Thursday or Friday. She died from what was reported as cardiac arrest, later updated to accidental cause of death, from blunt force trauma to the thorax, or the torso, I guess. And anyway, now it was trending on Twitter for quite some time. Epstein, hashtag Epsteined, which I love that, despite the fact that we'll never probably know what exactly went on with Jeffrey Epstein, he now has a term, so when you die suddenly under somewhat mysterious circumstances, right before you were about to talk, they call that getting Epstein, and I like it. It's fitting. It also could be Clinton, Clinton aside, and because if you want to leave this earth in a rapid fashion, but you're not sure you've got what it takes to do it yourself, well, you get a hold of Hillary or Bill Clinton, one way or the other. Hillary would be your best bet, and you just whisper in her ear that you've got some information on her that might not look good if it came out. And you know what? Don't worry. Never fear. You'll soon end up dead by suicide because you shot yourself 4 times in the back of the head. And Hillary Clinton will have taught you how to do it. It's pretty amazing, really, if you think about it. So anyway, that is the rumor kind of that has dominated Twitter over the last couple days. Like I said, I did not see that one coming at all. And I kind of like that idea. I really do. So let me see. I don't think it's not still trending, I don't believe. Well, and if it is, well, you'll know. Oh, Matt Schnell's trending. If you guys are fight fans, that was one of the coolest fights I've ever seen. It was UFC fight night. It was out in New York, and Matt Schnell, who I'm not familiar with. I know a lot of fighters, not personally, but I'm familiar with a lot of them. But there's so many good fighters in the UFC nowadays that I can't really keep track of them anymore. And but anyway, this Matt Schnell guy walked out to Fancy by Reba, which is a baller move. And he was fighting this Chinese guy, like Tibetan Chinese. And almost got knocked out. His first round was pretty uneventful. Second round was a lot of fun to watch. We had this Matt Schnell guy just almost knocked out. This Chinese guy was I believe they were welterweight. No, they were flyweight, lightweight. lightweight, maybe 145 pounders. Anyway, this Chinese guy's quite a bit taller, got some big reach on him, and almost knocks this dude out. They clinch, and this Chinese dude is just able to just hammer him with elbows, just because had so much reach on him. Anyhow, gave the guy rubber legs a couple times, definite Gumby legs, but he didn't go down. And then this Matt Schnell dude catches the Chinese dude with the right hand, snaps his head back, and then he takes him down, almost knocks him out with ground and pound. Was really had some big elbows. And then Chinese dude reverses position on him, and but the guy got him with the head triangle, choked him unconscious. They had to roll him off after they called it. They had to roll him off. He choked unconscious. Awesome fight. Hell of a time to watch. So you got it, ESPN Plus, or anyway, just go look at that on YouTube. That was a good fight. Anyhow, he was trending on Twitter. Epstein was not. So I'll have to do some searching on it. But I've got a couple screenshots. So this one says, this is from Dr. Jack Brown, and he is your typical insane left-wing person on Twitter. These are people that tweet all day, every day, and it's always political. Nothing but politics. There's no funny tweets or making fun of somebody for eating pineapple on their pizza or something. No, it's always political every single time. And this guy, Dr. Jack Brown, he says Ivana's body was found next to a spilled cup of coffee at the bottom of her stairs. If she fell down a spiral staircase, the cup may have tumbled all the way down the stairs, but the coffee would have spilled instantly at the top of the stairs. Story doesn't add up. There's one that I found that I thought was pretty good, and then there was another one said, and this is from Big Tiny Bird. All these accounts will have a Ukrainian flag in their bio. You can almost count on that because that's the thing of the day. Anyway, it says, well, I guess Ivana Trump won't be corroborating or refuting any of the depositions tomorrow of Donald, Ivanka, Eric, and Donald and Don Jr. How convenient. #Epstein. So, if you're not aware, old Donnie Trump is up to his neck in legal fees at this point. He is being sued in a Manhattan state court, or New York state court. He is being investigated by a grand jury in the Southern District of New York, and then he's also got something going on in Georgia. And this case that he was supposed to that got postponed. It was a deposition for a civil financial fraud case or something like that, pertaining to the Trump organization, which it's kind of like any other slush fund for wealthy people. And make no mistake, all you Trump people, it is a slush fund, just like the Clinton Global Initiative, Clinton Foundation, whatever whatever the organization is, if it brings in millions and millions of dollars every year, it is simply a way to move your money around without the government getting their hands on it. And you can look at the Clinton Foundation bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars a year when she was running for president, and then like after she lost, all those big foreign donations to the Clinton Foundation kind of dried up. I don't know what is being brought against Trump and the Trump Foundation. I don't know what the accusations are or the allegations. But either way, he's got to go to court, and he was supposed to show up for a deposition. It's been him, Don Jr., Eric, or not Eric. It was Don Jr. and Ivanka. I think maybe Eric, but I didn't see him listed in any news sources. I've seen several people tweet about him, but I've never seen it in an article. All I saw was Don Jr., and Ivanka. Well, that deposition got rescheduled. Not canceled, but rescheduled due to family emergency with two of the three people being deposed are children of the lady that died, and the other person being deposed is the ex-husband. So pretty understandable rescheduling. But as we delve further into this polarization deal where the people on the other side become less and less human, and you don't even extend like your normal thoughts as a human to them. Like the MAGA grandma that she just went to prison for 60 days for her part in storming the Capitol. And that was trending on Twitter as well. I love Twitter. I really do. It is a fun hang. People really let their mental illness just hang loose. They just put it right out there on full display for everybody, and it is very entertaining. But yeah, so this little grandma who has breast cancer, she's like 69 years old. You know what you're thinking? Nice. Yeah, goes to a federal prison for 60 days for trespassing or something else. Like they also claim like she had pretended to be hurt several times, and like the police would help her, but then she would she wasn't hurt, and she'd like continue, and she was basically just distracting the police from the whole deal. And she's on camera like telling like, "This is our house. Come on in. This is our house." And it turns out she was also part of the bunch of people that stormed the Idaho State Capitol or Idaho State House. Ammon Bundy, if you're familiar with the Bundy clan. Ammon's one of the boys, lives up in Idaho now, and he was part of this protest where they I guess they stormed the State House, or they say stormed. I don't know. I don't remember this actually happening. I'm sure it did, but I don't recall the incident. But if it was anything like the Michigan deal, where they just kind of walked into, kind of like the Capitol building deal, they walked in and not much else was done. But anyway, she was a part of that one too. So kind of, I don't know. Normally you'd hear that and you'd say like, "Oh, grandma with breast cancer, they're sending her to prison." That's ridiculous. And that's still kind of my normal gut reaction. But the more you look at this lady, you're just like, I don't know. I still can't say I agree with sending a old lady to prison like that. But also, it's pretty apparent she's not just some like regular old granny who just really liked Donald Trump and thought he was just getting a real wrong shake. No, she's actually kind of got a history of some political fuckery, activism and whatnot. And so who knows? Sucks for that lady, but also I don't know. It's one of those things where if you take a shot at the king, you better not miss. And in this case, being the king being the federal government. And it did not work out so well for him at all. And while I don't agree with the sentencing and all that and the shit, all behind it, she almost kind of had it coming too. So I think that's called victim blaming, if I remember right. So anyway, we do that here as well on Burnin Daylight. But yeah, so I don't know. That's another one of those stories where there's a little bit more to it than simply she's just an old grandma being being persecuted for her political beliefs. I mean, there's some truth to that, but a lot more nuance. If and you haven't noticed, that's kind of the story of life in general. Like there's a lot more nuance to just about everything than you think. And old MAGA grandma is like Patricia something. She found that out. Also, it was kind of funny. The judge said he had went lenient on somebody and only they'd only sentenced them to probation because they seemed very remorseful in court. And then the next day, the judge saw them on Fox News talking shit. So because of that, the judge decided no more leniency. And the prosecutors asked for 60 days and 3 years probation, I believe. And that's what the judge gave because he was not in a lenient mood because of the guy before that went and started talking a bunch of shit. But going back to the Ivana Trump thing, like let's entertain this thought for a minute. So we have this big fraud case, not a criminal fraud case. It's a civil fraud case. So the penalty, should there be any, would be financial. There's no jail time involved on this. It'd just be fines and fees and damages or whatever. So the thought here is to prevent Ivana from spilling the beans during the deposition in which she was not named. That to stop her from doing that, she had to be dealt with quickly. And so they took the Epstein route on her. But instead of doing the cliche tired old hanging trope, no, they went with tried and true classic fall down the stairs. And it just so happens that Eric Trump was the one that found her, which I think, if we're just gonna go ahead and entertain this conspiracy theory, which I think we should, why not? Let's have some fun. But since that's what we're doing, we're gonna entertain this, and Eric Trump was the one that found her, and then he supposedly found her dead and didn't call for help for like 90 minutes. I saw that on Twitter, so take that with a grain of salt. I don't know how true that is, if at all. I'm guessing not. But maybe, because if she was dead, and like how dead are we talking? Like, she's still got some body heat left in her, or is she cold and stiff? If that's the case, like, you don't really need much help at that point, there's not much you're gonna do. You're not bringing her back. Like there's no amount of chest compressions that's gonna restart that thing. So maybe he just sat there and cried and had a little one last chat with his mom before he called the coroner to come, make arrangements. So there could be that, or maybe Eric Trump was the one giving her a little push, and that could be the case. Who's to say? Maybe, and this is my theory, since we're entertaining it, because like I was gonna try to work Science Squatch into this some way, and I may still yet. You never know. I kind of run these things on by the seat of my pants, and I think up things on the fly. So if it makes sense, I'll work Science Squatch in here. But as of right now, I'm not seeing much to this being a Science Squatch issue, as opposed to a broken brain theory. What's the other like popular term? Brain worms, I think, is the other one going around. I kind of like that one. They got brain worms, and I think more than anything, that's what it is. I don't know what it is about Donald Trump. I was just talking with my wife about this on my lunch break. And I've mentioned it several times here before too. But like, what is it about Donald Trump that just broke so many people's brains? Like absolutely destroyed most critical thinking that they had. It's fascinating. Yeah, I don't understand what it is about Donald Trump that makes a lot of current conservative people treat him like he's a living god, and then the left-wing people treat him like he's the second coming of Hitler, and he's not either one of those, obviously, and not really even close to either one of those. And like all critical thinking, all sense of nuance and empathy have gone out the window. Selective, loss of empathy anyways. You have plenty of empathy for the trans community or the gay community or any other number of, quote unquote marginalized groups. But you can't even entertain a right-wing libertarian or conservative point of view. You can't. No, that's evil. So therefore, even when Donald Trump did something good, they found a way to still call him racist and blame him for basically all of the problems of modern society. Once again, which is just not true. He's got plenty of faults, but yeah, he's not a murdering dictator. He's not a dictator at all, actually. Like, left office peacefully. I mean, there was the January 6th thing, which was, I don't think expected to happen. According to what I've seen from January 6th Commission, not much. I will say, though, it was a brilliant move by this documentary filmmaker, the one that what was it? It was like Aaron Alex or something. I forget. Alex Epstein, maybe. Epstein, something like that. That made this documentary, and I watched it. It was on Discovery Plus. It's called Unprecedented, And it was all about the election. It was a 3-part series, culminating with the Capitol building riot and all the shenanigans that went on during that day, and then the impeachment and everything afterwards. And I will say, even though it was incredibly slanted and biased film, they did let the Trump family pretty well talk freely in all of their interviews. And they focused on the Trump side of things. They focused on Donald Jr., Ivanka, and Eric. And then outside of that, there wasn't much coming out of the Trump side of things. On the other people that they interviewed, they were all journalists of some sort. I could put journalists in air quotes too, because one was from Vice magazine, one was from Washington Post, one I forget where they're employed at, but they've got pretty close ties to the Romney family. As you know, Mitt Romney is one of the more prominent Republicans to have been shit on by Donald Trump, and no love lost there. If you recall back to when Trump was still getting his transition team together, getting ready to take office in 2017, and he floated the possibility as Mitt Romney for Secretary of State. And even though Mitt Romney had wrote this big op-ed talking about how dangerous Trump was, he'll play Secretary of State. He's got no problem with that. So he takes a meeting at Trump Tower has dinner with Donald Trump to talk about the deal, and it seems like it's pretty much that's who's going to be the Secretary of State. And then Donald Trump goes ahead and gives it to what was it, Tillerman? Rex Tillerman, I think, was who. Former, I think he was CEO of like Exxon Mobil. Swamp creature for sure. But the main important thing there was that it was not Mitt Romney. Not for me, but like in this particular aspect of the story, the main thing is it appeared as though it was going to be Mitt Romney, and then Romney got the rug pulled right out from under him and got left with egg on his face, which, in my point of view, is downright hilarious, because fuck Mitt Romney. But you could also see why he'd have been pissed. And one of these guys that they interview in the deal has got ties back to the Romney campaign or the Romney family or something along those lines. But the funny thing about that documentary is there was supposedly never before seen footage pertaining to the January 6th insurrection, as they call it. And so they had to pull some of those clips to play for the commission or for the committee meeting, and in doing so created a ton of buzz around this documentary, and it was genius marketing. So like, if you want to talk fascism, like, man, if we're talking like literal fascism, instead of thinking Nazi Germany, think of Benito Mussolini and Hitler, or Franco in Spain. So you had the same type of deal going on in Nazi Germany, but there was a lot more than just simply fascism going on. There was a lot of shit going on with Nazi Germany. So to compare anything to Nazi Germany is a little bit of a stretch. They're kind of an outlier. However, I don't know much about Mussolini, and you always hear about Hitler, and you hear a little bit about Stalin, but you never hear about Franco and Mussolini, and they were very big figures in the whole fascist movement in Europe, and so I might have to dig into Mussolini and Franco and get a little better understanding there. But all that aside, like, your kind of textbook definition of fascism is something along the lines of a strong centralized state with heavy economic controls over private business. So you have private business working hand in hand with the strong central government. If that sounds familiar, it should, because essentially that's what the United States has adopted since kind of since the end of World War II is huge multinational corporations that influence policy and politics in the country. Is take like the old British East India Trading Company. Essentially, it was a private company that was allowed to use the Crown's military and navy to increase their profit. It was a government chartered corporation, and so it was essentially a private company doing the bidding of the Crown, using the Crown's army and navy. And it's not unlike what we got now. Like, if you look back through particularly like the 20th century and like all the banana republics and stuff, so like all these South American countries where we set up, we overthrew governments that were already there because we didn't like them, and we installed people that were friendly to us, and seemed like a good idea at the time, but after about 80 years of evidence, we kind of we should have figured out that it doesn't really work. Anyhow, I get off on a tangent. We'll go back to Ivana. So she's, let's just say that, for the sake of argument, that Donald Trump is basically just organized crime in the White House. And it's never been like that before, Never once in the history of mankind has it been found that the United States government turned a blind eye to drug smuggling, or even helped facilitate it in order to raise money to send somewhere else. That has never, ever happened, at least, or at least not more than 7 or 8 times. I wouldn't think. Never happened before, probably. But yeah, that's exactly what had happened. And it's funny how all these policies that start out, for our own protection against a foreign power, always seem to get a domestic, what do they call that when they they get like a domestic makeover. So you get the global war on terrorism, the GWAT, where it's kind of a blanket authorization for the use of military force on a very vague enemy. Terrorism is the enemy. Well, who defines terrorism? Well, whoever's in power at the time. And they'll define terrorism as broadly as they are allowed to. And that's usually very broadly. Very broadly. But then we also, along with that global war on terrorism, we got the Patriot Act, which was, the setting up of this huge, spy apparatus, which was turned inward domestically, without our knowledge or consent, lied to about. The guy in charge of it, James Clapper, is it James Clapper or John Brennan? Whoever was the head of the NSA at the time said, not to his knowledge was there any mass surveillance of American citizens. Turns out he was wrong, and turns out he also probably knew about it. So did he lie under oath? Yeah, most likely. Did anything happen to him? Sure it did. He's a major contributor for either CNN or MSNBC, and probably has a board position somewhere on a huge, weapons company. So we have that, and now we've got the power of the judicial system, who Donald Trump for about 4 years was basically immune from as president of the United States. And now they're letting him know in no uncertain terms that that is no longer the case. He is, they're coming at him from every angle, and all of this, I wonder, I don't know if there's really anything they can really pin him on, but the idea is to tie him up enough to where he's not able to run for re-election. He's not able to enter the race again, and that's the ultimate goal. So, with that in mind, let's further entertain this theory. So let's just say, Ivana was like a surprise witness for this deposition. She was going to be like a surprise testimony, and it's this was what I think his second wife, maybe it was his first wife. I don't remember. I'm not real up to date on the chronology of the Trump clan, but either way, hadn't been married to her for quite some time. But she was also his wife when he did some of his biggest deals, like the casinos in Atlantic City. I'm not sure when he bought Mar-a-Lago, but I think that was while she was married to him. And some of his biggest ventures yet. I don't know how many golf courses or whatever, but they all happened while him and Ivana were still married. So and she stayed pretty active in the business world, I think. I don't know for sure. After they got divorced, but let's just say she was a big part of the Trump empire, which I don't think she was. Maybe. I don't know for sure, but my gut feeling says probably not. We saw how Trump kind of likes to run things, and he likes to run things, and so she might have been a big part of his company, but I don't know for sure. But that's a speculation. And because of that, would have access to a ton of inside information on one Donald J. Trump. And because because of the bad blood or whatever, because Donald Trump did kind of use that that whole divorce deal as a kind of a public relations stunt, as is Trump to do. He's no shy on spinning the media narrative. So let's just say that there was some really bad blood there, and Ivana, which I have not heard anything about her really at all this whole time Trump was in office. You saw all sorts of hate towards Melania and the Trump children, in particular Barron. Like they really came after Barron Trump, who's still a teenager, like a giant teenager, but a teenager nonetheless, like 6'9" or some shit, like freakishly tall. So, but let's say this did happen, and Don just can't take that chance. So what does he do? Puts out a hit, and let's and since me and my wife just got done We finished The Sopranos. You know, I know it was like 20 years late, but whatever. We still got it done. 25, 30 years, whatever. But we got it done. Great show. Still holds up. And if you look at how the mob families handled stuff in any of those shows or movies, it looks a lot similar to how a government operates. In particular, one where you have a bunch of incompetent people failing upward. And in that way, I'd say the way Donald Trump runs his crime family is a little better than how the federal government does it, but it's a little more efficient. Anyhow, so let's say that. Let's treat Donald Trump Jr., Donald J. Trump, 45th President of the United States. Let's speculate, and let's say he is the head of one of the New York crime families, you know? Let's just say he is full mafia at this point. And he's out here doing mafia shit because the ex-wife, you know, what was her name? That was Adriana, the one that was dating Christopher Moltisanti in The Sopranos. Let's just say that's Ivana Trump at the moment, you know. She's pretty high up in the family. Maybe she doesn't know exactly what goes on, but she knows enough. And well, maybe she's been talking a lot, and they're getting really close to being able to use some stuff against you. So, well, sorry about your bad luck, Ivana, but loose lips sink ships, and you gots to go. And they pushed her down the stairs. Or, since it was blunt force trauma to the torso, maybe it was just a bunch of body shots. Just left hands to the liver over and over again until she died. Now, does that make Eric Trump, does that make him the capo? Does that make him the captain or the lieutenant? Is he just following orders? Or was he there and made to watch because he was getting cold feet? And we can't have that, but he's also still useful to the family, so they don't want to take him out. Just send a message, and let's face it, Ivana had no value left to him, so very, very disposable. But also, you let Eric know he's disposable as well. And you let him witness firsthand just how disposable somebody can be. And maybe that'll help him get right back on the straight and narrow, you know, because snitches get stitches and stuff. Or swim with fishes, because we're talking about mob. They don't fuck around with stitches. They just throw your ass in the ocean with a cinder block tied to your leg. So let's say that. Like, wouldn't that make it so much more sense on why Donald Trump acts the way he is? If he was actually, say, you know, like the Johnny Sack, who, but I don't think so. Like, if Donald Trump gets convicted of something, like he's, don't get me wrong, he'll whine and bitch, but he ain't gonna cry in front of anybody. He's not gonna do that. I don't see that happening. Maybe, you never know. But I see Donald Trump as being defiant all the way to the end, and so he ain't gonna go out like Johnny Sack and be blubbering in front of his boys. No, he's gonna hold the line and he's gonna talk shit going out. But let's say he's so who took over for Johnny Sack? That was Phil Leotardo, who was the guy that Tony Soprano was feuding with there at the end. Well, let's just say instead of Phil Leotardo, you got Donald Trump there. How much sense does that make? Especially since, like I've said it a couple times on here for sure, the most surprising thing about Donald Trump is how little they've been able to find on him. And for being a guy that made his living coming up in the real estate game in New York City in the 80s and the 90s, which was the height of, well, I guess not the height, like the tail end of the mafia running New York City. So that means as he was coming up, learning from his dad, who was also a real estate mogul to some extent, nowhere, not quite as much on the level as the Donald, or at least not as well known, but a real estate mogul nonetheless in New York City, which means you can't do business building buildings in New York City without doing business with the mob in one way, shape, or form, because whether it be construction or sanitation or any of the labor unions, trucking, mechanics, sheet metal workers, you name it. All these different unions are controlled by the mob, and to get anything done, you got to use union labor in New York City. So that means if you're building a tower in New York, you've got who knows how many contractors and subcontractors on this one project, and how many of those have ties back to the mob. I mean, it makes sense. And especially makes sense how they've not been able to find really much of anything on him from shady financial deals. So that leads me to believe that there's not much there. And when you make the case that he's a boss of a crime family, I don't know, makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. So let's just take that to the logical conclusion. So if you have the head of a mafia family as a president of the United States, I mean, we haven't had that since JFK. He was only installed by the mob. He was not a mob guy. Actually, they turned on him pretty quick and probably had a pretty big hand in, the old bang bang from the book depository. So, are we saying that, I mean, if Donald Trump is one of those crime family bosses, he didn't just get there. He had to work his way through the system. Had to be part of the family to begin with. So, was he there during the 70s when the mob was just running rampant? Was he calling the shots, or was he being groomed to call the shots by, what was his dad's name, Fred Trump? Are they actually Sicilian? Is it actually Trumpelone? Or was it Don Corleone in the Godfather? So it's like Don Trumpelone. Maybe Trumpelone. Yeah, I think Trumpelone sounds better. Either way, what if he actually is Sicilian? Full Sicilian, and he's just a hairy mess, like a big mop of black, thick, greasy hair. But he can't show that because he's got to keep a low profile, The mob went through a whole bunch of facelifts in the day. So, what if you peel that orange hair off that's his trademark, and there's a skull cap underneath, and you peel that skull cap off, and it's just greasy Italian hair, and then he's just he wears those loose-fitting suits to disguise that he's short, stocky, and barrel-chested, and just kind of swarthy like Italians are. And I can say that because Italians aren't really, they're not really brown people. They're kind of kind of brown people. But they're built a lot like Mexican folks. And, we share a lot of the same attributes. Dark, kind of greasy hair, short, stocky. You could say swarthy. That'd be a pretty decent adjective to use. So, you have all that. And it's, just imagine Trump as like a Tony Soprano type. Be hilarious. Hilarious, I tell you. And it would make a lot of sense. A lot more sense than a lot of people would care to imagine, but I could see it happening. And so then who's next on the list? It's got to be Eric, right? Because Eric's the one that found her. And, for his sake, you better hope he was traumatized enough that he's not going to go to the cops with it. Because he knows what's coming up yet. Like, did they leave a horse head by her? Or maybe they left like a fake Hillary Clinton head, like what's her name did with Trump, holding up the decapitated head of Trump. But it's Hillary, and it's just a warning to the rest of the Trump clan that keep your fucking mouth shut. That'd be awesome. I'd like Trump even more if that was the case. So, what do we expect now? Is there going to be like a bombing? Like, is the Don going to put out a hit on Don Jr.? And it'd be like the Chicken Man in Philly when they bombed him. Wild stuff. And I will say, though, this is the most believable of the left-wing conspiracy theories I've seen floating around. To lead you on this one, I'll tell you how absurd some of these things got. So, back to the January 6th deal. Apparently, the committee requested a bunch of text messages from the Secret Service. And in response, or in the process of, depending on who you're listening to, in the process of transferring these messages or whatever from one device to another, a bunch of messages got deleted from the Secret Service, which, at face value, pretty shady. Sounds a lot like a Hillary Clinton move where they ask her for her emails and she's like, oh, I deleted them already. And they're like, how many? And she's like, all of them. And they're like, oh, well, we can pull them up on your server. And she's like, oh yeah, that thing? I kind of erased that one too, but really erased it. And so is that the same kind of thing? Because it's kind of what it sounds like. But if you listen to the Secret Service themselves, they say, no, there was some messages that got deleted in a device transfer, but everything that was requested by the committee has been properly submitted according to law. So it's a classic old he said, she said. And from two parties that are, well, let's say they're running short on credibility. But like I said the other day, like, if you are going to plan some shit that could really look bad if it came to light, who better to blame it on than the Secret Service, though? Like, they already got a pretty tarnished reputation as being a bunch of fuck-ups when they go overseas. Hookers, cocaine, more hookers, more cocaine, a lot of booze. Yeah, they've had a lot of scandals over the years, so blaming it on the Secret Service, it's not a bad move. Not a bad move. So anyway, in response to this whole development about the deleted text messages from Secret Service, that led to Major Biden trending on Twitter. If you're not familiar with Major Biden, I can't say that I was either. But don't worry, I looked into it for you, so you didn't have to. Major Biden, if it sounds familiar, it's because he was the first dog. When Joe Biden took office, German Shepherd named Major was the dog of the White House. He got in a little bit of trouble, though. He kept biting Secret Service officers. And because of this, they had to send him on down the line. I think he got adopted out somewhere. But I would guess that it probably wasn't a friendly nip. If we're talking Secret Service agents, regardless of what you think about their partying abilities, their ability to, kind of be an all-around badass, is for the most part unquestioned. So, this dog must have been a real menace if it was bad enough where the Secret Service agents say, all right, that's enough. You got to get rid of it. But anyway, due to the fact that all these Secret Service text messages went missing, that led left-wing Twitter to be left-wing Twitter again, and they are congratulating Major Biden for warning us about the evil of the Secret Service. And it must have just been his intuition that he knew these were a bunch of scumbags, and that's why he was biting them, just trying to warn us about the evils of Donald Trump and how bad the Secret Service were. And you know what? We sacrificed the most patriotic first dog known to man so we could hide away the crimes of the Secret Service and Donald J. Trump. Fascinating conspiracy theory. Fascinating. And anyhow, I hope your week is going better than that. I hope your weekend went better than that. I hope you have a better week coming up than left-wing Twitter did. And if you got some conspiracy theories, I don't know if they'll be as entertaining as those, but I'd love to hear them. So anyway, make sure you go, if you're not subscribed on social media, follow me on Instagram at Move Your Ass, at Puncherific on Twitter, Facebook and TikTok is Burnin Daylight. And if you'd like to help out the show, please subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/Burnin Daylight. Or you can also subscribe to the premium content on Spotify, so you get ad-free content, bonus episodes, and you get to listen to the episode a little bit early, unless we go live. So anyway, that's the best way to help me out if you'd like to support the show. Either Spotify and sign up there on the premium, or patreon.com. Yeah, I had to flip to a different page, like a whole nother page when I was going through the list of people on Patreon. So humble brag, I've got 2 pages of subscribers. That's pretty fucking cool. Anyway, I appreciate you all. I appreciate everybody for listening. I really do. It's been a lot of fun. Hope you have a good week. Stay hydrated. It's gonna be hot. And hey, move your ass. We're Burnin Daylight.